This game is just really, it feels like it was made for me because of my play style and how I like to play games and stuff. My favorite genres are MMOs, RPGs, and survival crafting. And you have good, strong elements of all three of those genres in this game. I mean, it's considered an MMORPG, but you can do a lot of like survival crafting stuff in this game. And um everybody that I've talked to, they say they need more healers, and that's what they look for the most is healers for their groups. And that's awesome because I love being a healer. I love healing people. Yeah, it is. It is kind of clunky. Like, I wish that you could cast the abilities faster, because it just doesn't make sense to me that it would take as much time in between spells when you have to wait for the cooldown anyway. It's not like I can spam the abilities. So I don't see what the harm is in being able to cast the healing abilities a little bit faster, because you have a cooldown. You have to wait for your abilities to regenerate anyway. It's going to take some time to regenerate. So what's the difference between being able to cast them a little bit faster, one right after the other, cast all three very quickly, so then I can get into a defensive position for my character faster? It would just be more of a benefit to myself and the group, because there's no point in me dying uh because the stuff is, the reaction time for things are just way too slow. Throw this out, I'm pressing that 5 times, pressing that 4 times before I can cast them. I should be able to just cast all three one after another. I'm going to run out of mana. The freaking Q ability that I have on Beacon, it's got a huge load regeneration time. I mean, Orb of Protection pretty much is the only one where it's like it regenerates pretty quickly. So it's like I don't know. I don't really understand why it has to be so slow. And when I'm in the heat of battle and stuff, there should be a priority cancel. There should be a priority cancel, like when I activate Berserk and I'm going like this, and then I try to block. I mean, the enemies already cancel out my abilities if I don't have Berserk activated. They cancel out the Q ability. They're able to cancel that out if they hit me with one of their like special abilities or whatever. So what's the problem with me being able to cancel my ability when I go like this and when I try to block? And why is it I can't cancel my ability when I switch weapons? Like, it's just little things that I hope they think about and improve on a little bit, because it's like some things should be more of a priority than others. Like skinning an animal is not nearly as much of a priority as the quest that you're working on. And I've noticed often that I can't pick up the bag that the enemy dropped because an animal is biting chunks out of my ass and I have to kill it. It falls right on top of the bag and I have to skin it before I can pick up that bag. But I'm in a hostile area. I want to pick that bag up and get the hell out before I get attacked by other enemies, especially elite areas. This is where it's really annoying. And some things should just be prioritized. You should be able to pick up the quest bag before being able to skin the animal. It's just little things where it's like, it's not game breaking. It's just a little irritating, and I hope they like consider stuff like that. The game just came out. I'm not trying to be too hard on it. I'm just critical of a game that I love to play so much, that I enjoy playing so much, that I've gotten to a point now where it's like, okay, let's see some improvements. And they are improving the game. I'll give them props for that. They're actively doing things. I mean, they had a new update come out this morning, and I loved some of the things that they did. And I'm glad they fixed the Azoth, because I was getting real irritated about that. Azoth is already a huge pain in the ass. I hate the Azoth. I always felt like, ever since I kind of got kind of an understanding for Azoth, I always felt that Azoth should eventually become connected to the Azoth staff. It would have made more sense for like the lore of the story. Like, you get this special thing that you put inside yourself, and you get the Azoth staff, and all that stuff goes on through quests and stuff. But it'd just be really cool if there was some kind of a manipulation of Azoth with the Azoth staff. It's like Horizon Zero Dawn. There was certain materials you had to get in order to be able to fast travel in that game, until you got to a certain point in the game and you were able to buy a backpack. Then once you bought a backpack, you were able to fast travel to any location that you already unlocked at that point. And I felt like it kind of just felt like a missed opportunity. You could have made the Azoth staff way more important, and you could have added that to the lore of the game by saying, yeah, once you get the Azoth staff, it reduces the amount of Azoth that you need, and instead of using the Azoth on yourself, you use the Azoth on the staff, and you regenerated the staff with Azoth, allowing you the ability to fast travel to all the previous locations that you unlocked. And so it was like, you know, right now, my character does not have the Azoth staff, so it should be costly. It should be hard for me to fast travel because I haven't gotten the Azoth staff yet. And so as soon as I get the Azoth staff, I have a reduced amount of Azoth that is required for me to fast travel, because I have the ability to direct the Azoth flow with the Azoth staff. And then eventually, when you get Azoth staff like the maximum rank, it would still cost Azoth, because you have to manipulate matter in order to travel from one location to another. It would make sense to not have as much as I would love to have it free to fast travel in this game. I really have to say, you know, for the lore of the game, it would still make sense to be able to manipulate Azoth, but it should be significantly reduced by the time that you max out your Azoth staff. It should be like, you know, 20, unless your territory has taken it over, then it'd be only like 10. However, with that being said, they have reduced the costs of Azoth for fast travel. So once again, I give them props for that. But it just would have been really cool to tie in the manipulation of Azoth with the Azoth staff. I feel like it kind of was like a missed opportunity, something that I would have been like, oh man, that's really cool. You get the quest for the Azoth staff, you finally get it, and you just get that feeling of true completion of the game, because you now have the ability to travel without using as much Azoth. And so it just feels like a quest completed, especially all the traveling and all these steps that you have to take in that quest line to get the Azoth staff. It would have been really cool to like give you a really awesome reward for doing that. This better? No. Okay, we got new quests over here. But, you know, like, okay, I thought there was a quest over here. Oh, it's down here somewhere? I don't let that stuff bother me too much. It's just little things that I thought about, and some things that could be
I have spoken, and I have an idea.
Improved and whatnot. But I'm not being too hard on them, because they literally, I mean, you guys need to really wait. All
Get us
great
some of
points.
that,
Oh, thanks. I
and we'll
appreciate
use
it.
to bolster the
Being a
settlement's
tank myself,
defenses.
it's great having a healer on my side. Had tried a healer tank build, but couldn't get it to work right for me, so now I'm just using hammer. And what's that? What's SNS? I don't know what that is. I'm not familiar with that. What did they do to the Azoth? They just reduced the amount that it costs to fast travel for everything. Which, oh, sword and shield. Okay, I should have known that. I use when I'm solo on my main character. Whenever I'm soloing, most of the time I run sword and shield and hatchet. And then when I'm in a group activity, it depends on the situation. Most of the time with excavations, I try to main the healer type of thing. So I use the sword and shield because that final ability, this ability here, no, this one. While blocking reduced damage to all allies by within 2 meters by 30%, I actively notice how much of an advantage that is when I ran excavations using that. It is crazy. So it's kind of like a thing where I try to throw down my heals, but while my heals are in cooldown, I switch to the sword and shield and hold my shield up and make sure that I try to follow around the group as much as possible to give them that buff. And when their health starts to drop, I switch back over to the life staff and hit them with all my abilities and then throw up the sword and shield again. That's usually how I do it. But sometimes, if it just depends on what we're doing, I'll use life staff and hatchet so that I can put out a whole bunch of damage with them. Because sometimes, depending on how you're fighting, sometimes it'd be best for me to just give them the extra defense. Other times it's like there's just way too many enemies. I need to help them thin the herd a little bit. So I go with the hatchet. And I kind of, I just do that like on a whim. Like here, if I run into a certain situation, I'll equip the great axe. When I'm hunting deer, I equip the great axe. It is just so freaking effective. It's more effective than all ranged weapons, because you hit the deer with a ranged ability, a gunshot, a bow, or an arrow, I should say, or one of the mage abilities. They automatically start running away. With the great axe, I walk up to it and I hit it with this ability, so I'm right on the deer, and as you know, it'll immediately start to run away. I throw out the Q, it brings them back, but then they've taken damage from that ability, and then I throw this out. This is literally the great axe is what I use for hunting deer more than any other weapon, because it's easier than using a ranged weapon. You shoot them, they run away, you have to try and shoot them again, or like shoot them again, and they're just running away from you the whole time, and it's annoying as hell. So I just use the great axe. Oh yeah, the Void Gauntlet, it's just a personal preference, but I'm so used to dodging and blocking now that I actually killed myself a couple times with the Void Gauntlet, because I kept throwing up block and forgetting that it was consuming my health. So my brain isn't capable of effectively running the Void Gauntlet, because every time I saw myself getting below 50% health and not having the opportunity to heal myself effectively, I was trying to block and I kept killing myself. But I'm glad you're enjoying it. It does look like an awesome weapon. And I did mess with it for a little bit to see if I liked it, but I just kept killing myself with it. Just not a weapon for me, and my inability to remember certain things like audio. But yeah. Okay, what was I doing? I don't remember if I read these or not. I must have. I do so many things, I I do so many things on instinct rather than actually thinking things through, because once I, like, the way my brain works is I have a goal or something that I want to accomplish. How do I accomplish? Okay, let's find and develop a strategy. Once I've found that strategy that works for me and is most comfortable for me, then my brain moves into instinct, and I just do that reaction. I do that I do that strategy on reaction at that point. And so certain things just don't even dawn on my brain to, maybe this could be better or this or that could be improved. But there's been quite a few times in which people have come into my stream and they said, "Hey, why don't you try this?" And I was like, "Wow, I never thought about that." And I tried it and it ended up being more effective. It was like I was on my main character for a long time. I was running Sacred Ground, Splash of Light, and Orb of Protection, and they said, "Hey, you really should consider experimenting with Beacon instead of Orb of Protection, because when you get that ability, Beacon lasts 5 seconds longer. That actually makes it more effective than Orb of Protection, unless you're going for, like, maybe you could do a build Orb of Protection and Beacon because they both do damage to enemies. You could do a heavy attack with the Life Staff, then throw out Orb of Protection, and then throw Beacon on that enemy that's coming at you if you're soloing." And I was like, huh, that sounds pretty cool. But I ended up on my main character going for Sacred Ground, Splash of Light, and Beacon, because that main character, I'm concentrating the most on as much healing as I can put out. Whereas with this character, I'm kind of like running solo right now, kind of messing around with the concept of the Life Staff and going for both of these because they do damage. I don't know if this one does damage. If you guys know, I would appreciate you letting me know. But I don't know if this does damage to an enemy or not. Maybe I should mess around with that. But I really like Sacred Ground and how much healing I get from that. So it's like, I don't know. Do I want to completely go Protection? Or do I... Because I'd have to sacrifice Sacred Ground, so I'm not really sure what I want to do there yet. I remember my healer enjoyed Ice Gauntlet and Life Staff combo, but that was a while ago in week 1 of games life, so nerfs or buffs might have changed some stuff. I haven't dabbled in much of that. I tried that. So effectively, there are 3 different modes in this game, and that mode is changing depending on what they're changing in the game. But for this type of game, there's only one mode, there's only one general difficulty level, I would say. But depending on the weapons you decide to do, you are putting yourself in hard mode, regular difficulty, or easy mode. And what I mean by that is easy mode is effectively what my character is right now. The hatchet, it's an OP weapon. There is no weapon like that. Berserk makes me run faster. I can't be knocked down. I can't be staggered. I can be stunned. I found that out. A guy hit me with a sword or with a shield and he stunned me. So I can still be stunned, but I can't be staggered. I can't be knocked down. I can run faster with Berserk. I can evade faster with Berserk. Berserk gives you so many advantages. You don't get that many advantages from any other weapon in this game. And then running the Great Axe, having the ability to just pull people into me, activate Berserk, and go to town on them. For me personally, it might change depending on person to person, but for me, Great Axe and Hatchet, easy mode. I don't have to worry about anything except using heals when I need to, eating to keep my regeneration up, and then just going ham on people. That's literally all I have to worry about. Using 2 weapons that require mana, automatic hard mode. Because you really have to keep an eye on your healing. you have to keep an eye on your mana. You have to make sure you have mana potions. So you're going to sacrifice something. Like, I have Strong Corruption Tincture. You're going to have to sacrifice that, or your regeneration potions, to have mana potions on you, because you're going to burn through mana like that. It's going to just go, boom, gone. Your mana is going to be constantly running out extremely fast. And if you're running a life staff and any other mana weapon, you are severely reducing the amount of times in a span of time that you can effectively throw out healing. And so because that other weapon you're using consumes mana, you're not going to be as effective as a life staff user. You're not going to be able to heal people as much as if you had yourself in a medium tier difficulty where you're using any other weapon that doesn't use mana. However, with that being said, if you use a mana weapon and a bow, or a mana weapon and the musket, you are still in that hard tier, because you got to keep on an eye on the ammo that you're using now. So you got to keep an eye on your mana, make sure you have mana potions, you got to make sure you're readily stocked up on ammo, and you got to worry about all that stuff. Whereas medium difficulty is any ranged weapon with any melee weapon. Because you run out of bullets, you have a melee weapon you can fall back on. You run out of mana, you just have to wait for it to regenerate for a bit. You have a melee weapon you can use until your mana regenerates. So, hard tier difficulty, any two ranged weapons together. Medium difficulty, a ranged weapon and a melee weapon. Easy difficulty, two melee weapons. Because the two melee weapons, you don't have to worry about anything except just healing when you need to. And chances are you won't need to heal as often either, because you're going to be dealing out so much damage that the enemies will be dead before you really even have to worry about healing. So you're good. I don't. Because I switch off weapons all the time on the fly, I go strictly Constitution for my main character. All of my points go into Constitution, because that opens up the ability for me to use any weapons on the fly. It doesn't matter. If I'm putting points in here or there, wherever, then it's kind of like you get the advantage. You get the advantage of strength, but you have to be using the certain weapon, unless you put gems in the weapons. But that is not all, that doesn't always work, because you might find a weapon, like let's say this weapon is 348, I find a weapon that's 410, but it's a green weapon. I can't put a gem on it, which means it won't scale to Topaz, for example. Scales off of intelligence. So that weapon will no longer be nearly as effective, even though it's a better gear score. So it doesn't really work that way. You can't think of it that way. So what I do is all of my level up points go into Constitution. All of my weapons and armor is going to, in the end, once after I get to level 60, I'm going to concentrate on finding weapons and armor that give me strength and dexterity. So all of my points will be in Constitution, and if all of my points don't get me to 300, then obviously I'm going to try and find some pieces of armor that also have Constitution on them, but I'm going to actively try to focus on finding weapons that give me strength and dexterity to get me to at least 50. So this is my second character, so I'm not leveling him up the way that I leveled my main character up, but all regular points to Constitution. And then I'm going to try and get 50 to focus, so I get that mana regen rate. I need it to be quicker so I can be more effective at healing. But then I also want the 50 for that 5+% chance to critical hit. I want that. And then I also want the 5% damage. So I get the 5% damage, 5% critical rate, and then I regenerate mana faster. So I'm going to be effective whether I'm using the sword and shield, whether I'm using the hatchet, whether I'm using the life staff. I'll be effective to an extent using all three of those weapons, and I can change them on the fly without worrying about anything happening to my character. And then all of my points are in Constitution.